Hi, I'm Greg Gavaziak.
And I'm Luke Phillips.
And this is the Semi Crazy Podcast, the podcast by truckers, for truckers. Okay, now we're recording. First podcast of 2021.
Yeah, there we go. We
First podcast in months.
Our shit in a pile. I just found that folder we were talking about a minute ago.
Truck pictures.
Yeah, there's like, I don't know, 100 in there printed off. I just gotta put them up.
Nice.
Yeah, not too shabby. So there's lots of news in Greg's world because we've been MIA for so long.
Yeah, so long.
How long has it been?
Someone told me September. Somebody told me October. And being that I run the podcast, I should probably know, but it's been a while. So yeah, anyways, happy 2021. We can blame it on 2020. We can blame it on COVID.
Blame it on fucking trucking.
You could do that, but
yeah,
I'm trying to keep a positive outlook on trucking. So,
well, I might not be the guy to talk to then this week.
One of them weeks.
Oh, it's not bad now that we got a plan. It's just that getting a plan together, right?
Oh yeah.
Then this time of year sucks for doing anything, really.
It is. It's people are on holidays, and yeah, you never know who's going to be open when and all that shit. It's not the easiest.
Yeah, like I think I only got 2 full weeks in this month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Christmas and just stuff blew up a rad a little earlier than I anticipated. So that happened.
Yeah. Well, you usually don't anticipate blowing up rads, do you?
Well, no, not really. But when it was seeping for like 2 weeks, I thought I could get away with it. And sure enough, 3 days before my shop appointment, my fan started, and all of a sudden I had coolant on my windshield, and figured it had to be coming from somewhere. So
it usually does. It doesn't just appear. I mean, unless you had some really funky shit in your coffee in the morning or something. But
that's right. I had a leak on one truck that I couldn't find, and it was coolant, and it was just would have a puddle on the ground every morning. Couldn't find it, and it turned out there was a coolant jug behind the winch, just sitting in there from the last guy that ran the truck, and it just had a little pinhole. It would drip, drip, drip.
That is a good one.
Yeah, that was 3 or 4 days of head scratching. What in the fuck?
Well, I wish I could find the little gremlin that's stealing the coolant out of my truck.
It's the emblem on the hood.
Oh, ouch. We're going to start that this early this year?
Boom. Get right out of the way. There we go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so 2020, I mean, I got 214,000 kilometers on it, and really never a major issue in the shop, other than all my little tiny. I definitely wouldn't call that truck a lemon, because it's kept going, but it's just little things, eh? It's been all year.
You're not going to the shop for check engine lights. You're going to the shop for wheel seals and just little stuff, right?
Yeah, just and so it's like, it's not like I don't think it's that the truck was put together on a Friday. I think that the components were put together on a Friday, or that was like, well, what's this pile of stuff over here? Here's some Michelin tires that might be factory seconds. Let's put them on there, and let's I don't know if those springs or whatever match, so we'll put those on the back end, and maybe that's what my ride problem is. And yeah, I don't know. It's just little stuff, but that ride thing is just crazy. So having, I guess, like you say, big changes. I changed companies yet again, which might not surprise anyone who knows me very well, because I mean, I was never ever home, which is a lot of the reason we haven't been podcasting. It was, really difficult to try podcasts from the truck stop in, Missouri or, you know, anywhere like that. It just doesn't fucking work, right? So, uh, yeah, I started a job that I actually stay closer to home, and in switching trailers and stuff, I mean, I still have the ride problem, which is intermittent, and it's really freaking weird because I put a load on the one day,
Well, I don't
and
I don't mean to cut you off, but maybe we should fill everybody in on what the ride problem is here. I don't know if we've talked about that on air or not.
oh yeah, I guess so. I guess I've always alluded to it, but I've never ever said anything about it. So when at about 50,000 clicks, my truck started this thing where it would go. I'd be driving along, and my front axle would go over a ripple in the road, and then the front drive axle would go over it. You'd feel those just a little bit, and then the back axle hits it, and it is like driving an old truck on springs, even loaded, kicks you in the ass, right? And so I played with ride height because everybody said, "Oh, it's your ride height. You're obviously you're something is stretched out there." So I played with that and thought I got it better, and then it came back. So then I made sure it was adjusted, came back. Uh, then the leveling valve blew, so I thought, must have been the leveling valve, right? Must have been a problem in there. No, not the leveling valve. It came back. Um, and then I thought maybe it was the trailer I was pulling because, step decks can have a funny ride to them, depending on how you load them and everything else. But it didn't seem to matter. I'd have the problem sometimes heavy, sometimes light. Uh, yeah, it's kind of all over the place. And then I had it steady for like, what, probably 3 months?
Yeah, yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, where it was just there all the time. Then I switched jobs, switched trailers. So now I'm pulling a set of step deck supers. And with those, the first load I threw on, and it was good. Like it seemed to miraculously disappear. The truck rode like it rode great. And then I was empty, and it was good. I threw a load of steel on. I drove halfway back to Edmonton, and all of a sudden, not even all of a sudden, I went to bed, got up in the morning, fired the truck up, and I was on rubber blocks again. And then 5 days later, uh, in the middle of the same load, went in, grabbed a coffee at Davidson, came back out, jumped in the truck, pulled out onto the highway, riding like a dream again.
See, and that doesn't
So,
make sense because anybody that knows pulling into Davidson, it's like driving on the moon.
yeah. And so I'm starting to think, I thought it was maybe something binding, which still could be. And the only thing that I could think of that would bind up to hold that back axle from traveling would maybe be in the slip joint on the intermediate shaft. I can't think of any other way it would bind because it would have to bind both sides, right? And then
Track bar bushing, maybe, or something.
yeah, but I don't know. It just doesn't. It just boggles mind. But anyways, the other thing I thought was, um, I went back to years ago. I had a log trailer, and you would load it up, and you're watching the scales, and the scales were electric over air on the trailer, and so you'd be loading and think, well, it should be loaded now, but yeah, throw another 1,000 on. Yeah, throw another 1,000 on. Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go with that. I mean, it's not moving, and uh, then you drive, and I'd get out to the wrapper check, and all of a sudden I look back, and boom, my gauge is way up, and so is my weight. All of a sudden, I'm on my scales. I'm like 3 ton heavy. Like the four extra ton that I asked for, three of them are too much.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we had a hard time because it was just intermittent. Wouldn't go wouldn't. Anyways, then about 2 months later, we just went through and took all the airlines apart, and there was a tiny little piece of wood in there
Hmm.
in one of the small airlines. And so what it would do is it would go and it would block the supply and wouldn't allow your airline or wouldn't just wouldn't allow any more air to go in there. So you put more on, and it wouldn't go anywhere. and then somehow, some way, it would work its way out of the line into a different spot where it would allow it to pass, and then your air would go back up to normal, and you'd be overweight.
That's just funky. But
So then I don't know.
yeah, so it's riding, your truck's riding fine again now, or
Well, I'm not driving it, so it rides great right now.
well, fair enough.
No,
Fair enough.
it was good on the 28th and decent on the 29th. Or sorry, went out on the 29th. So 29th and 30th it was good, and coming home on the 31st it sucked.
Weird.
And only half the trip on the 31st, which this time it was weird because I pulled into Davidson, and when I left Davidson was when it started riding like crap. So
See,
I might just
that
not.
makes more sense. In my mind, that makes more sense. Um, hmm. Yeah, that is weird. What's the dealer say about it?
uh,
Typical dealer
they,
things.
yeah, they want to try a different extra leveling valve or something, and they've got ideas, but over the holidays I wasn't able to get it in, so we'll just have to get it in at some point here sometime soon. I'll have 5 days off at the end of the month, so I think it'll go in then, and we'll see what they say.
Oh, there you go. That'll work out then,
Yeah,
or at least you can hope.
yeah. As of right now, at least it's hauling and I'm making money. So
Yeah, good enough then. Yeah, I haven't been, I don't know, par for the course really with running an old truck. I haven't had major stuff, but just little stuff going on. Nothing that really
yeah,
takes away other than that rad, right? That sucks, but
yeah. I remember the phone call about the geyser
yes,
of the cooler.
yeah, yeah. That's it. Just it's the worst. Like when it's the start of your week. It's a short week, right? I had 3 days, real
Hmm.
easy 3 days, and loaded up in Fort Saskatchewan and got to Mundare, and that's when I noticed I kicked my engine fan on to keep it cool, and I got some spray onto my windshield, so I pulled over and let the dog out, and left the engine fan on. Come back 10, 15 minutes later, I figured should be cool enough, it'll stop leaking. But there's I don't know, 2-3 liters on the ground, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
then as soon as I got out onto the 4 lane there, it just started spraying again. So kept ran the fan all day out to Battleford, unloaded, came back, got her into the shop, got that one rebuilt, and or I was gonna get that one rebuilt, but I decided to go to that 4 core like you and I talked about on the phone there that
Oh
day.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's only $100 extra. Might as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, at the time when you got it out, even if it's a couple $100, it's I mean, you upped your cooling capacity by how much, really, right? I mean, the truck will run cooler, nicer into summer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it should be good. And then, cat stuff. Had to do a pre cooler while we were found that was leaking. So just trucking.
Little bits here and there.
Yeah, that's right.
How's So being that I've never hauled grain, what is there a big difference hauling in the winter as far as loading, unloading, that kind of stuff? Things run slower, faster. I
Slower,
mean,
so
obviously.
much slower. Um, well, it usually goes one of two ways, right? Like either the farmer knows you're coming and he's got his auger warmed up and all that stuff, or and everything goes good, or you show up and the yard's not plowed, and the auger's not even set up, right? And then that turns into a cluster pretty quickly. And
Oh
then
yeah.
do a lot of bag load, like loading out of bags in fields in the wintertime.
Oh okay.
But thankfully, I haul in Saskatchewan, so it's not that bad. The wind does most of the snow removal for them.
Yeah, that's all right then. Yeah, I don't know. There's everything. I don't know. Everything slows down in winter, right? I thought that originally thought that it'd probably be best to be running down to the States at this time of the year, but then again, the whole being gone part of it, I would rather fight with the cold than never seen my own bed.
Well, yeah, and there's lots of other stuff that comes with that, right? So, yeah, stuff that forces a guy to change decals is usually, it's like you say, it's just all little stuff that piles on, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't hold any ill will towards where I was working. It was like I said, it was a good job. It's just wasn't for me. So yeah,
Yeah, good
this
for a
just seems
single
to be
guy
right.
that doesn't care, like that would,
Yeah,
back when, before I got all married up and stuff, that would have been a really attractive gig because paid to travel, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. I did a lot of interesting things, and like I said, it's a lot of Yukon and Alaska and the States, and yeah, no, it was interesting. This is definitely uh, not as interesting, but it's steady, and ultimately, when it comes right down to it, I mean, that's if you can kind of maintain the same income month over month, and you got the same time off month over month, it's a lot easier to forecast and even plan things with your family and friends and podcasts and
Yeah, like I would say what I do is pretty boring, really, in the grand scheme of things. But it is really nice to have that structure. Like I've never. This is the first job I've had where I have that, and we're just going on a year now, and it changes a lot. It does.
it changes your kind of your outlook on it, right? Because I know I think in years past, like I would have changed almost for more excitement or other something more of a challenge or
Yeah, hundred
but when
percent.
yeah, once you've kind of ran back and forth. I had a friend call me the other day about he was thinking about buying a log truck, and I mean, probably given the current climate, probably the worst year you could think of for buying one, at least in Alberta. I know a lot of the mills have a ton of wood in the yard, and they're just like, I mean, there's talk of some places are only going to be single shift. And anyways, long story short, I just kind of went over the reasons I didn't do it anymore, and that's one of them was consistency. Like when April comes, you and I are still going back and forth. Uh, Whereas oil patch logging, well, you made hay all winter long. You better hope that you put some away because there's zero guarantee for April, May, and even into the summer, really.
Well, and that's how that whole lifestyle is, right? It comes back to like what we were just talking about with the schedule. When you're doing oil field and stuff, it's when you're at home and you're going to work, you don't want to leave anything undone because you don't know the next time you'll be back. And then the same thing goes for when you're working. You don't want to take days off to do something because you don't know when you'll have work again, right?
Yeah.
And it
Oh
always
no,
seems
exactly.
like the years that you think you have it figured out and you do make plans around your previous years, work, it never works that way. I remember one spring breakup, I planned a vacation with an ex, and I didn't have a single fucking day off. We were flat out from, well, yeah, we fired up like January 4th or 3rd or something like that, and worked right till middle of August, pretty much. So like you're not going to take time off from that because I sat from August until January again, right? So
Yeah, no, I did. I had like two winters in a row. This is like back in the oh late '90s, early 2000s. Had two winters in a row where it was like clockwork, like just about right around my birthday, like right in March. So March 20th is my birthday. The one year we were done like right March 20th, and the other one it was like March 23rd. Done. No more logs hauled. Didn't move until like for me. Then I just didn't go until I went back and hauled seedlings in May. And so yeah, oh, well, I know what I'm gonna do as soon as I'm done. I'm gonna go out and uh, head out to BC, and I was going to kind of be a hippie for a while and just kind of tour around and hike and whatever. And then my brother was working for an outfit or with an outfit or was part of an outfit, anyways. Um, and they all their guys wanted to go for breakup, and they still had wood to move, and they still had everything off highway. And he said, well, be a couple weeks or so, whatever, if you want to come run the picker truck. I'm like, yeah, sure. Just straight nights, not a big deal. Get a few hours in here and there, and on the weeks where it doesn't work out, I'll just take it easy, and then maybe I'll get an extra 2 weeks of revenue in. Then it turned cold. Everybody else is gone. Uh, I've just would haul logs all night, move equipment all day, and back and forth. And I worked all of April into just into the start of May. Quit hauling logs and went right to seedlings, and then I went right from seedlings in the fall back to logs again. Never had a break at all.
Well, and that's so now looking back on it, do you wish you would have just taken the time off?
Well, I was young and I actually had fun. I enjoyed running that picker truck. So, and I don't know. I mean, probably would have been an interesting experience, but at the same time, it was an interesting experience doing what I was doing. Um, that was where I don't know. I might have told you the story. I don't know if I told it on here before, but we were um, one night went out to go move a cat when we were out there. We were up on the 321 road and spun out on the last hill, just mud, right? Like I thought it was frozen enough, but it wasn't. And two sets of chains empty, going to get the cat. And so Shane, the guy that's with me, he was bigger guy, right? And so we're like probably 3 miles, 5 clicks or so back to his pickup, and then we're about the same distance to go up to the cat. And so, like, walk up to get the cat and then walk it back doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe we'll go get the pickup, then drive up, get the cat, and then we can, walk the cat back and drive the pickup back, pull the truck out, reload or load up, and then so that's kind of the plan. But it's dark, like just black at night, right, on the 321 road, and the only thing, like just a bit of the moon behind the clouds. That's all that's there. And the wolves are howling, man, like you wouldn't believe. And we're walking down the road, right? And you can feel that Shane's nervous. And I'm just walking along, whatever, walking through the bush. He's like, well, geez, Kager, doesn't those wolves howling make you nervous? I said, no. Well, why not? So I only have to outrun you. I said, and I like my chances on that, and you're a pretty good sized snack. So
Yeah, there
it's
you
funny.
go.
It's funny how much his pace picked up. I didn't tell him my plan that I was going to kick him in the knee to make sure that I gave myself a little extra time.
Yeah,
But
you're staying here. Whatever you think is not true.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I had lots of stuff like that. I don't know. It was interesting.
I never had company on those walks. I remember,
No.
well, the first year I was trucking, spun out coming out of the gravel pit out of the river valley. And this is like uh, four, between 4 and 8K, this hill is from our laydown.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I drop off. Oh, I was loaded. So yeah, I pull the hill, spin out, walk back, get the grader. And as I'm walking back, I decide, oh, I'll take a shortcut. I know the area pretty good. I grew up there. And I'll just take a shortcut and go through the back of the graveyard, the Burtonville graveyard, which in my head didn't click at all, right? It's 2 a.m. And I'm tromping through the woods and then come up on the graveyard. And I'm like, oh, yeah, right. So you want to talk about a guy's pace picking up. That put a jump in my step.
Oh, no doubt. Especially if like a little bit of fog rolls in or something. It's like it's straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah, that's right. And it's down in the river valley, right? So it's an eerie, echoey place to begin with. But then you
Yeah,
get
it's great.
you get that internal question once you pull yourself up the hill. Well, do I take this machine back and park it there and walk back, or do I leave it here for
I'm
somebody
guessing you
else?
chose the latter.
Yeah, they got pickups. 'Cause it was like an hour walk from where I spun out. So and then that was a pretty big hill. So it would have been and uphill. Screw that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's an eerie place. It can be peaceful, but it can be a really eerie place to be in the middle of the night by yourself walking through the bush.
Yeah, and luckily I was a pretty like growing up in the country and stuff and on the farm, and my dad always walked the dog. You know, he'd get home 10, 11 o'clock at night, and he would go for a 2 mile walk and with the dog. So I went with dad quite a bit doing that, and just comfortable with it, right?
Yeah.
But there is times where you hear stuff in the bushes and you really hope that it sounds closer than it really is. I'm just throwing shit around. I don't know if you heard that or not.
Oh yeah, I heard it.
Yeah, real good
Your
then.
mic,
Yep.
your mic works quite well.
So I don't know. We'll talk about this with our editor. This next part.
Mm-hmm.
I called a local company, a local chrome shop, about a visor. I mean, I don't want to. I could look up the exact date, but it was before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And sent them, emailed them pictures and stuff. And I still have not gotten a phone call back. And still nothing. So it brings me to the question of why don't people work for your business anymore? Am I the only one that notices that? And like in a whole, it's very rare to find somebody that'll actually try and keep your business.
Yeah. You're not the only one. I seem to find that too, and I mean, it's the shitty part is over the last 6 months, people have had or a year, people have had the veil of, well, COVID, it's this, it's that, but it's a lack of there's a lack of caring in a lot of, especially if it's the only game in town. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, 100%. And this in particular shop, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't quite get it either.
Oh,
'Cause
your headphones are Bluetooth. I forgot about that. You just got up and walked
oh
away. I was like, all right, bye.
yeah, no, I had to just make sure that the door was shut. So
But yeah, it's
um,
this particular shop is, and I'm not trying to trash talk by any means, but I just don't understand why people change like that, because I've had 2 tire shops do that too now, and it's just I don't get it. I don't.
yeah, I don't understand. Like there's this kind of almost attitude with some people, and it's even in sales too, like where they just they work so hard to get your business, and like I was always taught, like, you work hard to get someone's business, you work hard to keep it, because it's way easier actually once you've got a relationship with somebody to hang on to that. And so if something, there's the thing where, like, if something goes sideways, it's almost like people get really scarce, like they're afraid to have that conversation with you because something went wrong on their end, whereas it would just be a lot better for you if they just said, oh shit, sorry Luke, you know what, I know we said it would be in 2 weeks, but we're having a problem with our manufacturer or whatever. Then
Well,
then you go, oh, at least you
yeah,
care enough to tell me what's going on.
this particular instance, it was this is what I'm looking for. This is the brand that I'm looking at. The manufacturer texted them pictures, and they said they were going to get back to me with price and you know all that. And we're talking, looking at my calendar, I'd say at least 2 weeks, and not even a call back. To like,
Yeah,
so have they just forgot about me? Put zero interest into it, right? And I'm not the only person that they've done this to either.
yeah, no, that's the
But then you've
yeah,
got
like I said.
on the other side of it, I needed to buy steers, and I was talking with my mechanic working in the shop there, and he pointed me to a tire shop on the west end on 118th Ave. They're in with a truck dealer, and my tire guy for the Yokohama steers is like 1320, something like that, right? All in.
Yeah.
And then the West End was 1260 or 1280 all in. But then he tried to sell me these Firestone FS 591s for 1230 all in. Called my tire, hung up with him, called my tire guy back, and I told him, this is what this guy's trying to sell me. What do you think of the Firestones? And with very minimal hesitation, my tire guy turned around and said, I'll just sell you Yokohamas for what he's going to sell your Firestones for. You've been coming here long enough. I'm going to keep your business.
Nice.
So, like, why is it to the point now that is a rarity? That's just proper sales and business, in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, when there's a problem, like all of a sudden people get scarce. And like when I worked at the dealership, I'd see that too. People would, um, you had a customer, they're having some issues. And I mean, there are bad customers, there's good customers, but I mean, when you've got someone who's good, they're buying trucks, they're doing whatever. And when they have an issue, all of a sudden you slough it off because you don't want to, you don't want to deal with it, right?
You don't want to have I hate to use it because it's not politically correct, but you want to have a man-to-man conversation, right? When it comes time to actually be the bearer of bad news, people don't want to.
Yeah, like I was watching an episode of The Office yesterday, and like I don't know how much The Office you watch, but like I mean, like Steve Carell is an example, a perfect example in that of that person, right? Because they're trying to pick a healthcare plan, and he's got to pick one that saves money for the company, and he has to be the bearer of bad news. He doesn't want it, so he sloughs it off onto Dwight, and Dwight's gonna have to pick it. And of course, Dwight picks the cheapest, right down to the bare bones thing, and Steve locks himself in the or Michael, whatever, locks himself in the office and it says he's busy all day, puts his blinds up so that no one can come in, so that he doesn't have to be the bad guy. And like that is just so indicative of what people are like in a lot of ways, because they don't want to be that. And it's not like you have to be the bad guy. Like I mean, if you explain it, most people are more than willing to work with you on it. But if you don't and you let it fester, it just gets worse. And then eventually they're like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this guy. Just like what you're saying, like you're not going to go buy your shit there. You can find there is other ones, or uh, there will soon be more.
Yeah, I will go on record saying that I will never give them another penny. I went
Yeah.
to Peterbilt and bought lights the other day versus going to them.
Yeah.
Which actually,
I
surprisingly, Peterbilt beat their price on the lights for the inside of the air cans.
Oh really?
Yeah, by $20.
Oh wow.
Yeah, per light. You need two, right? So.
Hmm. Well, and businesses too, you have to be, um, you really have to think that there's a lot of competition now in that like retail stuff, like for trucks or, service, anything like that. Like you run Saskatchewan and Alberta, so you've got a lot of freaking options throughout your week of places you could stop for parts. Um, for me, like in looking at, like, I'm either looking at putting on a second truck or just replacing the truck I got. I really, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kind of blowing the top off that secret, but I've been looking and building and gonna build
Well,
something different.
we're going to be here for a couple hours, so I mean, I don't think we're going to have much secrets by the end of this.
So, but I talk to, I know a lot of salesmen, I talk to a lot of different places, and some of it is about what people are willing to even put together for you, like on specking a truck. Like some places really they'll try like hell to talk you out of what you want, and it's almost like, um, I hate to say it, but sitting behind a desk, if I tell you that I've wanted this, unless you've got a really good reason and you can say, hey, I've got this customer has got 6 trucks, and or he's got 10 trucks or 20 or whatever, and these are the issues he's had with that spec, then I'll take your advice. But when you just tell me, oh no no no, this is the best. We went to Kenworth to this thing, and and really this is what you want. You don't want that. Or even with wheelbase, like trying to get somebody to build something. I want 256 wheelbase. My truck right now is a setback axle with a 250, which a lot of people would say, well, no, you can only have 244. Well, no, I know the rules and I know what I want. And I want a 256 wheelbase on a long hood, right? Because I want a little more. I had four different people in Alberta tell me that I couldn't do that. They wouldn't bring it in unless I put like a massive deposit on it because no one would buy it. And because it was not legal. And I'm like, well, you know what? That's too bad. It's too bad you feel that way because I know what I want. I know what people will buy, and I'm gonna just go elsewhere. So I went another province over. Um, Talked to, and I'll just say that I've been talking with Charlie at Inland Kenworth, and he's been great, like just great to deal with. What do you want to build? Oh, okay, here, put together the specs, send it. We go back and forth, and
See, and
been
that's
excellent to
it's
deal with.
disappointing that you got that out of our local Kenworth dealership because dealing with spec in that tri drive, I lucked out and I had a really good. Well, I didn't luck out. I had a really good salesman, ex truck driver. You know, he was the heavy haul tri drive spec guy, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also knew a lot about the highway side of it too, right? So I got lucky there, but I did go through two before him. You know, and as
Mm-hmm.
soon as they do exactly what you're saying, oh well, I don't think you should do that. Well, good for you. I'm not here to build a truck for you, right?
Yeah, and the other thing I found is, and maybe in all fairness, I didn't make as many calls around here just from previous experience. Was that everything here was 10, 12 grand more, and
Yeah,
line
there
by
is that
line by
too.
yeah,
Yep.
and you're going down there line by line, and I'm sorry, but there was a time when here with the oil patch being as busy as what it was, those dealers would sell every Kenworth that came in, like they could demand a premium because they were selling trucks anyways. But now, you know what? You kind of gotta compete because like I'll definitely drive the extra 1,000 clicks for 10 grand. Like if it's $500, yeah, I that's not a big deal. But I mean, when you're talking pricing, yeah, 10, 15 grand difference, yeah, absolutely. I'll drive to frickin' Toronto for that.
Well,
Not that I would buy a truck in Toronto, but
and me personally, I'll go a long way for customer service too. I don't even give a shit about the price. It could be the same price, and I've got a guy in Saskatchewan that treats me better, and I've got to ship it. I'll still use him,
yeah,
right? Like it doesn't bug me at all.
yeah, and it's relationships, right? It's just like, yeah, even certain things guys haul. You'll see, like I hear stuff where people say, well, you can't haul this. There's no money in that or whatever. But if you provide good service, there are good customers who are willing to pay extra for that service. There's also customers who aren't, and then that's all right. Let the people who want to run for nothing have those customers that want to pay nothing.
Yeah.
But if like if you it is I do believe that if you deliver good service and if they're a good customer to work for, you can have a reasonable rate. And I don't know. I think it's the same thing.
Oh, 100%. I've been on, when I was a company driver, uh, but it'd be very open that we got outbid by whoever, right? And then, sure, whatever, that's fine. And literally get a call from the same customer 2, 3 days later. We need a bed truck because that load you were supposed to haul in here didn't make it, right? Or oh, we need you guys to go reload this at the scale because they didn't bring enough wheels. And then, all right, well, our price just went up. The deal that
Yeah.
you were getting for being our repeat customer just went out the window because you're being dumb.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
with grain hauling, the way that we keep our rates and stuff good is we all come from pretty much the same agricultural background, and we have common sense, and we'll run a goon spoon. It's
Yeah.
so many guys will sit in their truck while the farmer sweeps out his bin bottoms and stuff like that, and it's just not how we operate. But we'll pull in that yard all day long, and we're getting paid more than anybody else, right?
Yeah, but it's like I said, it's because there's customer service, and for the most part, a guy does it with a smile, and if there is an issue, you talk about it or you call ahead, or like I know even a few places since I've been where I'm at, like I call ahead and they're like, oh, okay, you're gonna be here. I would like they're not expecting it, right? But I've
Yeah, I
always
find that a lot too. I always call, always, and it surprises them every time. I don't get it.
and I just think it's common courtesy. Plus, it gives you the it gives you peace of mind, kind of knowing, especially if you're going into someplace new. Maybe there's a don't turn here. You got to go half mile down the road to get into the right entrance, and especially if you're pulling a set of trains, that's some pretty good info to know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Before you drive in someplace and then have to back out 2.5 blocks or but yeah,
but
it's
if you know
not
how to back up, that shouldn't be a problem.
no, it shouldn't, but it's still not as much fun.
That's right. That's right.
I've been lucky with that. It is kind of like riding a bike. Now I probably shouldn't have said that, but my next backing up excursion probably won't go near as well as it has. But
Or worse, you'll
yeah,
put the pup in the ditch going forward.
I don't know. I'm not gonna. No.
Nope,
Yeah,
no,
I'm.
not gonna happen.
Yeah. No, the worst thing I've had in my first week back here is we don't do it often. We don't haul coils often out of Regina, but I did end up getting a load just before Christmas, and it had to be tarped. And yeah, when I'd rolled my tarp 2 days before that, my steel tarps, I'd rolled them up wet, and then it turned like -20 ish. And so yeah, my 32 foot and 28-foot tarps to tarp just coils were like
Yeah.
unrolling plywood and then trying to make them wrap around there. Oh my God, I was cursing life. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was kind of wishing that I would have just deadheaded home. I think at the end of the day, with all the time I spent on that load, I might have been further ahead. But
Oof,
yeah,
that is
yeah,
rough.
yeah, yeah, because um, that can be one of those commodities too, that because everybody hauls it and there's not a lot coming out of there, right? So, you're taking that load for, just to add a little bit of revenue. It's not a real big money maker when it's something like that. So if it doesn't go smoothly, you definitely are further ahead, I think, to drive right on by.
Yeah, and I've
So,
I've run into that lots. Like I used to grab loads from locally here to go down to feedlot like Strathmore type country,
mm-hmm,
and then grab a load of fertilizer and go east. But it's not worth it. It's really not, because
mm-hmm,
especially on my side of it, because now instead of loading your fertilizer Tuesday morning, you're at best loading it Tuesday night, Tuesday afternoon.
mm-hmm.
So yeah,
And
I just skipped that altogether. And Carsland
just
to like Deadhead to Carsland is 4 hours, right?
mm,
It's not that big of a deal.
yeah, no, no, exactly. There's certain times where you hear some people say, well, I want to have no empty miles. So there's times where it makes more sense when you just figure out what your time is worth. And yeah, like I say, on that load, I mean, it took me by the time I got my corners on and got everything on there and tarped and that, I mean, it legitimately was like I was 4.5 hours loading.
Jeez.
And then on the other end of it, I ended up being, 2-ish hours unloading, which it shouldn't have been, but like with the tarp, so that's 6 hours in and of itself. I'm not going to say what the rate was, but it was no screaming hell. So I, to me, if it would have been like an hour, throw the coils on, chain them down, and go, no tarping, and then unload on the other end, half hour, totally worth it. But oh well, is what it is.
Yeah, there's one local farmer that we haul for, and it's always a end of the day thing. We never go there during the day. Very rarely. I shouldn't say never. Because he's got it's just old equipment. Last time I was there, I think I went through a half a bag of zip ties because I had to put his gas tank back on the auger and make him a new throttle handle. And oh, yeah, it's just one of those, right? But those are the ones that are frustrating at best, like 4 hours to load to drive 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and yeah, we've all done the math in our head before where you're like, okay, yeah, if okay, well it's this much distance. You look on the map and you go, oh, and it's that much revenue? Yeah, sounds good. Like and kind of sometimes not look at the rest of the things surrounding it, right? I know even when I was at Bowline, I did that a few times too, where it was like um they send me a dispatch and my eyes open and I see the rate. Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. And I'm looking at the distance and everything else, but I didn't look at what I had to load and then it had to be tarped and that it needed this and it needed that. And then that the next day I couldn't unload until like so it was like I thought I was like bing bang boom gonna get it done in one day and it ends up taking 2 days. And then it's like, okay, well I still made money, but it really wasn't the gravy that I thought it was gonna be. And it's my fault because I didn't do the homework on it, right?
Yeah, I ran into that a bit when I started hauling grain. Same thing. And then, you show up and you load, and then you look at your grid road map on what's not 8-ton band, and what you thought was a 15-kilometer haul is a 50-kilometer haul. And you're like, oh, okay. So this.
Yeah, that's it too.
This is just
And
normal
that's
rate.
what's
I'm not, I didn't win the
when we
lottery today.
talk about heavy haul stuff and like especially how many people are trying to get into those kind of things
Yeah.
now.
Like, you can
Um,
haul a feller buncher on a step deck down highway too, right? That's
yeah, the guys like
sure.
the same thing. They look at the rate, and you or I give someone a rate because, um, like if we were still in it, I'm saying, but we give them a
We
rate
had
because we look at
$500.
it and you go, okay, well I know we can't go this way because of the height, and I know we can't go this way because of the road ban and whatever. So it's a
Which
legitimately
is
it's and
stupid.
say a 12-hour trip and we need pilots and we need this and we need that. And then the guy that's just coming into it looks at the load and goes, oh, well, it's only this many ton and I can go right down this way and it's only going to take me 6 hours. And they just don't look at the rest of it because they don't know.
Our industry. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, like the whole bidding thing, and I know we've touched on it I don't know how many times, but the like shipping wars is like the to me is exactly what's wrong with the industry. Yeah, it like and showing how excited I'll just say it, those idiots are to be like outbidding their friend. That'd be like you and I sitting here and
Yeah,
looking
right?
at something and I'm like, oh yeah, Luke, you're gonna do it for 5 grand? Try this. 3 grand, huh? I showed you. Like I don't understand the mentality behind that at all. Like it makes zero sense to me.
Or you pick up the phone and call me and be like, hey, I'm looking for work. You can have this one, right?
Yeah,
But the next one, don't, I'm going to take this one, right?
yeah. Don't hold my feet to the fire on this. And yeah, I don't
Co-opetition.
know.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, yeah. More people stick together on stuff, and it would hold the rates up. But I mean, there's always going to be that cheap stuff that has to go that no one's going to pay any money for. So I guess we do need those people. It's just we don't need those people driving down the rates where they should be high. And I guess you got to hold faith that the market will eventually put those guys out of business because of huge fines and broken equipment and lost customers because they're not getting the job done.
Yeah. Or shitty planning. Like, I know a couple outfits with e-logs coming down the pipe that guys drive there. They're like, we have no idea what's going to happen when e-logs come.
Mm-hmm.
Guys going
Yeah.
Edmonton, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and we leave Monday morning, and they're home like Thursday afternoon.
Hmm.
Yeah, as per dispatch.
Ah.
Like I said, I'm kind of sour here lately, and that's probably another reason why, or a good reason why we haven't been podcasting. Because
Yeah. A guy just, yeah, you don't want to, a guy doesn't want it just to be a bunch of, a bitch session. I mean, we
no,
have
not at
had those,
all.
but
But at the same time, what is reality most of the time here lately has been fucking bullshit. So why talk about it?
yeah, I was definitely before I changed my decals, I wasn't in the right frame of mind to give a positive podcast. Like, and yeah, like I know I was on e-logs, but the just the for me running against that timeline was the worst thing in the world because it was like you had to run when you didn't want to run, and you always felt like you were under the gun. Like, I mean, there was times where like I know it did probably damage to my digestive tract just because I'm like, well, I can't stop. I got to make it to this truck stop by tonight, and I know that's the only one I, between here and there, or else I'm going to be 2 hours behind when I start in the morning.
Yeah,
And then I
exactly.
know, yeah, and because of those, like, you got, if you lose 2 hours today and it's Monday, that all of a sudden by the time Friday rolls around is 6 hours because you missed this one and then you missed that and then you hit lunch there and then like it throws your schedule right out the window.
Oh yeah,
And
and I can uh, truthfully say by the numbers that I've ran, I've missed an unload Monday night by an hour, and by Friday I'm out $4,000 to $5,000 gross revenue
hmm
because it just
yeah,
fucking just trickles down, right?
yeah. Oh no, totally. Yeah, I had some of the same ones happen where you missed you missed by a little bit and then you're stuck somewhere for the weekend and the load that you had booked for Friday that you didn't get to load because you couldn't unload. All of a sudden, well, that load someone had to take it because it had to go. So they got it on their deck Friday. And now I'm sitting somewhere Monday and I need to get somewhere for Wednesday, let's say. So I take whatever I can get on Monday, which is, yeah, you know, cheapo rate. And then yeah, Wednesday maybe I missed something out. Like it just, yeah, like you say, it just and that's also why I ended up probably staying out as long as I did a lot of times because I felt like when it was going good, you didn't want to upset that balance.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm in a rhythm. I don't want to fuck with it.
Yeah, and so like I really want to get home, but do I want to book something? Because man, if I screw with the rhythm and then I get out of it, well, what the hell? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that is
that's why
exactly it.
that's why I kind of like the knowing where I am and where I'm going kind of every week. It varies a little bit, but not a lot.
Well, and I noticed that a lot. I did the same thing when I was heavy hauling. Like, I wouldn't want to. I'd spend a weekend in a hotel because I just felt like I was, on my game. My shit was going good. I didn't want that distraction, right? But
Yeah.
uh, that takes a toll after a while too. Like I did that for a year. I was just fully immersed, and yeah, it was pretty wild. I miss it, but I enjoy having a life and seeing my house and stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm not saying that I'd never go back to doing something like that, but it'll be a long time coming. Yeah, I kind of like this consistency for now.
See, and I think I like part of me says, "Oh, I'd go back in a heartbeat," but then the other part of me thinks about my last year of being an owner operator and doing this, and I don't think my blood pressure, if you will, is raised half as much as it would in a whole year as it would in a week there.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. That's for sure. And I don't know. I've written enough articles about health and trying to keep yourself in decent, shape, well, mentally and physically in this industry. So uh, it's and really, I mean, if you can do that, you're going to last a hell of a lot longer and not be bitter and having health problems in your 40s, 50s, 60s,
20s.
and but yeah, like if you can keep that the stress down to a minimum on it, I mean that's really the biggest key.
Well, and I think that, like, looking back, um, over my last year of being independent, if you will, even though I'm not, because I am a lease operator, um, just the way, like, my general attitude and the way I take stuff on has totally changed. Just
Hmm.
like, I don't want to say I don't give a fuck, but at the same time, it is what it is. Whatever, here we go. Like, when my truck was in the shop for the rad there, I get a call about my pre-coolers leaking. It's like, all right, that's $1,600 for a new one, or we can look for a used one. And it's like, no, just put the new one on. It is what it is. Pay the bill. Here we go.
Yeah.
Looking back, though, I've come to a definite 2020 hindsight thing,
Yeah.
and I would have done stuff differently 4 or 5 months ago, knowing, but you can't tell what's going to happen, right?
No.
Like, if and when we did a podcast when I popped my head gasket there, did we not?
I believe so. Yeah.
So, and that's what I'm talking about. If I knew what what I'm dealing with now, then I would have done that repair completely differently.
Mm.
Um, I would have taken the pistons out then, shaved them down, and done my single turbo conversion. Because since I put that head gasket in, I've done a pre-cooler, and last week my low speed turbo started pushing oil. Found it
Mm.
before it got too bad. Luckily, like, it was found in the shop. It wasn't I puked a bunch of oil out or anything like that.
Yeah.
But now I got a mystery turbo on from the C-Can. So single turboing is in my future, clearly. Uh, but to do that properly, you got to take your head off and do your liners because you're in there and you're pulling your pistons out because you got to shave them down or put different ones in because you're low on your compression and so on and so forth, right?
Mm.
So now a year ago, I would have been stressed about this. Today, I don't really care. If that turbo blows on Monday, yeah, it'll suck, but nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
If it gets me a
You'll do
year,
what you
well,
got to do.
we're in good shape.
Yeah. No, like I
Just
just.
Yeah, it's just I was thinking about that, talking about it with the wife the other day, just the way things have changed and the way a guy deals with what he's dealing with, right?
Well, and when going from, like, you look at things differently, you look at numbers a lot more now. You look at, like even you and I having our discussion the other day about, like, really when it comes down to it, we're pretty close. Uh, you know, when you go to payment and like payment versus
End of the
payment
year,
and
yeah, end of
end
the
of the
year number.
year,
Yeah,
yeah,
your
running,
payment versus my payment and maintenance was pretty close.
yeah, like I mean, and from year to year there might be some discrepancy, and it's um but there's in that there's your choice too, right? Like it's not like there'll be people out there who'll disagree with both of us. Like there'll be people who tell me that I'm wrong, and there'll be people who tell you you're wrong. But there is no wrong or right to it. It's a choice. It's how you choose to run your, and that's the beauty of being in charge of your business and not just driving for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll come out and say it. Would I have made more money driving a brand new truck this year? Yeah, I would have. Do I care? No.
No, it's what you want to do,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I can, and it's like I made the choice when I bought mine to go with an arrow truck and not go, like, I mean, I'm obviously I'm like you, I'm old school. I like the 900Ls and 379, 389 Pete's, 49 EXs. Like I just,
You say
yeah.
that, you say that. But yet, if you look at what is in your parking spot right now,
Well, see, that's where I
determines
was getting to.
not, yeah.
and like I said, I made that decision, and there's my hindsight. If I could go back, I I don't know how much I would have given up in fuel. Because I mean, you really can't say without having done it. But smiles per mile, I think well, I know it would have been farther ahead. I wouldn't be sitting here looking at possibly getting something else if I was super happy with making that decision.
Well, I'm interested to see here once we have a comparable month. And by comparable, I mean like you actually get a full month in. Um, to see how our fuel numbers actually compare. Because
Hmm.
now we're both pulling Super Bs, right? I don't think
Yeah,
I still don't think that you run as maxed out as I do as often, but we'll see at the end of the month, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I do know just from numbers I've seen, like in like with what we had back in the day at Dad's place there, running the like twin turbo cats versus the versus the newer like the DDs and the um fuck, the Volvos. Like I kind of know where those numbers were, and they're off a little, but I mean they're, you get a couple um you get a couple tenths of a mile to the gallon better, but also depending on how they're driven.
Well, yeah.
Like
So
if you've got a guy that runs them at the right RPM and where they're comfortable and whatever, like that's what makes a difference, right?
there's hearsay, but I hear of a guy that is running an MXS block cat. Can't remember if it's twin or single, but this guy babies his truck. Like doesn't even run the AC in the summer because he doesn't want any more load on the motor than he has to. 10 miles per gallon. Long hood twin turbo cat, allegedly. But I have heard this from two pretty good sources.
If I could see the numbers, then I believe
Yeah, they say 10, so I believe 7.5, 8, which still isn't
it.
nothing to shake your head at with a cat, right?
we had uh,
And I've got
we
a
had a
sheet
couple.
right here that I just happen to have that one trip coming home from Moose Jaw to Edmonton last month, I was in a hurry and I got 4.3 loaded. And then the next week I wasn't in a hurry and I got 5.1. Same load,
Yep.
right?
And then there's wind. Yep. And then
Yeah.
there's wind and other little, and that's why it's like month over month and what your running average is. And yeah, because I do mine on fuel gauges. I have to change it because it's got my like 60 day and 90 day on there. And so
Oh, you're trusting the computer thing, I'm a jigger.
oh, I figure it back out too, but
Oh, okay.
I will say though that it is a reliable way, because not doing it on my, like not on my computer, but fuel gauges like on Kevin Rutherford's website, Let's Truck. It's free. You can go on there and just put your fuel. So you put your fill up in your mileage, and then it just tracks it for you.
Oh,
It's super simple, man. And so it's
so
just doing that.
it's not like this then.
It's doing that for you.
Yes. Can you print it
So
out?
you don't. What's that? You can print it out. Yeah.
Oh,
It does the mathematics.
well, la di da. You just saved me like 4 hours a month of paperwork.
Yeah. So you just and you can just do it on the app on your phone.
Yeah.
So when you fuel up, go on there, and then you can look at other people, what they're running and what they're doing, right? Because I remember when I did it years ago, when I was hauling frac sand, I remember there was a little more of an online community or that I was involved in then, and people would chirp me because my numbers were so quote unquote bad. I'm like, well, I'm hauling 140,000 pounds. You guys are doing 80 if you're maxed,
Right.
and
And another good one is when guys, blow your numbers up, say, oh, well, I'm doing this. And then you ask them, well, is that US miles per gallon? They're like, oh, well, yeah. Okay, well, you're getting the same as me then. It's just your number's bigger because your gallon's bigger,
yeah.
right? I don't know.
Well, and there are also those guys. And if anybody ever tells you I'm getting about, you've heard that, right? Like, oh yeah, I get about 6. So is
Yeah.
it like
So it's 4.
5'7" or yeah, is it 5'7" or is it 6'4"? Well, I don't know. It's about
No,
6.
yeah. See, there's the bullshit meter in there. If somebody told me they're getting 6 with trains, okay, so you're getting 4.5, 5. It's like my numbers with trains and a cat are pretty consistent from what everybody that I've talked to.
Yeah, you're right around probably 4.5, 5, depending on because. But also the thing with yours, you're pulling grain trains, which are, your aerodynamics are they're terrible. There's no two ways about it. And so I can tell you of trucks that get 6 miles per gallon pulling trains, but they're hauling chips and chip trucks. Like, so that's what I was going to say. Like, we had those twin turbo cats, and then we ended up with Volvos and like say some Detroits, and then ISXs and whatever else. And the majority of our trucks were, in the 5 to 6 range, and like the best guys we had were 6, but then they were doing 100. They were, taking it easy all the time, but also those trucks are full fairings, top to bottom. They got a gap between the truck and the trailer that's about a foot. Like there's nowhere for air to go there. And then a chip train, well, the right behind the drives, it drops down to like 6 inches off the pavement, and is that way all the way across the back. And then the gap between the trailers even is only, 2 feet. So I mean, it's about as aerodynamic as you can get with, and also like even those guys run those goofy little fucking things on the bottom of their vans. Like that's not even as aerodynamic as a train is, because those chip trains, the belly runs right down on the ground, so the air can't even go underneath really.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, well, yeah, there's some 6 mile to the gallon trucks hauling 140,000, but that's like, that's not the normal. There's lots of guys run decks like what I run, and they're getting 4 flat and think that they got the world by the ass, which is not true at all. But yeah. Oh, you're froze up. I may have lost you.
Oh, now you're back.
Oh, I heard you for a second. Yeah.
Is it you or is it me?
How about now?
How about now?
It seems to be an interweb thing. I'm just gonna look at my interweb and see.
Yours or mine? You should hit that save button before you leave.
You've been listening to the Semi Crazy Podcast.
If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. You can find me on Instagram, Luke Dirk Phillips.
And you can find me on Instagram, Semi Crazy Inc., and on Facebook, Semi Crazy Truck Pictures. Thanks for listening.